What is going on, everyone? This is Miles Dompier, and welcome to the 113th episode of Xbox Chaturdays. Today, I'm stoked to be joined by you, the community. This is more of a personal episode. This is going to be a bit of a different episode for Xbox Chaturdays. No guest, because there's a lot of personal stuff I wanted to talk about today, and I figured it was just easier if it was just me and the people who tune into the show. So if you are watching live, appreciate all of you. Smash that like button, share it out, and we're going to go over some big updates that have been happening in my life the last month and a half, because it's been a doozy. If you're a regular watcher or listener of the show, you've probably noticed that the uploads for the channel have been inconsistent. You've probably noticed that Xbox Chaturdays, the live show, has been inconsistent. And I know not a lot of you follow me on every single social media platform, and that's totally fine. But yeah, we'll be talking about where the show has been, where the show is going, some big updates in my life, both happy and pretty sad. So, I'm going to try to keep it fun. I'm going to try to keep it positive. I'm going to make this an open conversation with you, and and it's going to be more of a free-form episode. Again, very different than the average episode, because there's stuff that I need to talk about and I want to talk about. So, before we get into all of that, let me get through the usual housekeeping stuff here. If you haven't joined, Xbox Chaturdays has a Discord. There is a link in the description below. Xbox Chaturdays has a merch store if you haven't bought yourself some sick drip. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, go ahead and do that. We're on the road to 5,000 here. Some member shoutouts in the supporter tier. We have William Riggs, Huffy Bear CH, Sinful Sadie TTV, Gold Shell WPR, Christopher Davis, Buddy McClure, Rachel, Derek Griffin Jones, V. Simcoe, Anthony, Disciple of John Carpenter, and last but not least, my mom. In the loyalist here, we have John Grasula, Patrick, Nick W, and Assassin. And in the producer tier, we have Matt Valdez, Yodani Quazada, and Hargeet Chani. All right, so appreciate all of you. Let's just get into it here. Let's just dive straight into it here. So yeah, if you haven't followed me on social media, I'll give you a quick update of what's been going on over the last month-ish for me. And we'll start, I guess, with where the show has been. Why hasn't the show been as consistent? And if you were unaware, of late June, my father was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, stage 4 pancreatic cancer. So that happened late June. He was in the hospital for most of July. We got him home on his birthday towards the end of July, and then unfortunately he had to go back to the hospital, and he passed away on August 1st. He passed away on Tuesday, August 1st. So yeah, in the course of a month, lost my dad, essentially. So that has been, understandably, where most of my time and energy has been spent, is with, supporting my mom and my brother and sister, and being with my dad. So that's been, why the show has been inconsistent. In the course of a month, been going back and forth to the hospital, and some days I just didn't have the emotional energy for it. And I try my best not to trauma dump or whatever on social media, but a big component of who I am and what I've done is, making sure that there is a human component to our conversations online, and to remind everyone that, behind the noise and the chaos, there is a person. So yeah, that's been understandably where most of my time has been, and that's why the show has been inconsistent. So, and then another big update that's happened in that same month is towards the end of June, I applied to a position with IllFonic, a position I was very excited about. I live over in the Seattle area, and IllFonic has a studio in the Tacoma area, which is near Seattle. So their office and their Tacoma studio is about 30-ish minutes from where I'm at. So I applied to a job late June, and during the month that I was dealing with, our family was dealing with that near Seattle tragedy, I was going through the interview process for a job with IllFonic, a job I was very excited about. And so it was kind of this emotional roller coaster of everything that was going on with my dad, and then the anticipation and stress. If you've been through the interview process, you know all too well what that's like. Of, putting yourself out there, getting the energy, trying to make a case for yourself, stressing about how you answered questions, all of that. And so, yeah, it was about a month-long interview process, so pretty involved interview process. And then the interview process, all too well what that's like. Unfortunately enough, the timing of my father passing was the day that I had my final interview with Ilphonic. So it was a very weird day, a very very taxing day, very mentally exhausting day. So yeah, it was that week was kind of wild because I lost my dad, and then a couple days later I was formally offered a position for a social media coordinator over at Ilphonic, which I accepted. Went through the background check process, all of that. And so, yeah, starting on August 28th, 2023, I will be working at Ilphonic as a social media coordinator, which I'm stoked about. That team has done a lot of games that I've loved. They've been involved with Friday the 13th, Ghostbusters Spirits Unleashed, Arcadegeddon. So they have this pedigree of horror, and if you follow me, horror is a big part of who I am and what I love. And they also have a long history of creating multiplayer, social-focused games. And so it seemed like a great fit. They are on a small list of studios that I was actively applying for and checking the job page regularly. So when I saw a couple positions post for Ilphonic, I was there. So I'm very excited to start that. And I guess we can talk about. Seem like a great fit. They are on. There's audio from the video playing. Oh no! Okay. Was that miserable? Oh no! Sorry. I apologize. I had the YouTube rookie move. I had the YouTube video playing over me talking. So hopefully you can understand that. If not, let me know. I'll try to go over it. But apologies there. Apologies about the echoing audio. But yes, long story short, if that was unintelligible because of the loop, let me know. But sorry, apologies. Yeah, a little rusty, shaking the dust off here as we try to get back into the swing of things. So yeah, like I said, unfortunately lost my dad this past month. And then got a job at Ilphonic. So starting on August 28th, I will be a social media coordinator for Ilphonic, which I'm very excited about. So what does that mean for Xbox Chaturdays exactly? Because I know I've seen some people speculating on what this means, and I'll be honest, when I applied for the job, I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure exactly what that meant. I was kind of anticipating because I know the way some of these contracts work, and I was kind of expecting that Xbox Chaturdays would unfortunately have to be retired. So it's something I asked about during the interview process, because I would like to continue doing videos on my channel. I would like to continue doing Xbox Chaturdays, and I'm happy to report that I can. They have a very flexible policy when it comes to essentially side work. I mean, I was informed I could essentially, create a game on the side if I wanted to. I don't know that I'll do that necessarily, but yeah, thankfully I'll be able to continue my YouTube channel, and I'll be able to continue Xbox Chaturdays. So the show's not dead. I know we've been through a lot with the transition from Windows Central to the personal channel, and then this weird gap, and now this latest career change. So I will say the next 2 weeks are going to be a little bit. There's not going to be a show the next 2 weeks. This coming weekend is going to be my dad's memorial, and then the weekend after that, I will be at PAX West. So if you're going to be at PAX, let me know. I'll be there. It'll be the first time I've gone in over a decade, because I used to live in Seattle, and I left Seattle about 10 years ago. So I think the last time I went to PAX was like 2009 or 10. It's whenever whatever the year Rock Band 2 was there, that was the last time I went to PAX West. So I'm excited. It's been a hot minute. So if you're there, reach out. If you're going to be there, let me know. Shout out to Colt Eastwood, actually. I won a 4-day pass via the homie Colt Eastwood on a little Twitter giveaway he was doing. So that was a nice surprise. So yeah, I'll be there hanging out. I know the Lords from the Iron Lords podcast are going to be there, full squad. So I'm excited. Plan on buying those guys a beer and seeing them meeting a lot of them in person for the first time. But yes, I did want to let you know that Xbox Chaturdays will continue. I will have to reevaluate some things. Just in the sake of transparency here, try to be as open and honest as I possibly can with this show and what I'm doing and all of that. Yeah, there's going to be things I can't speculate or talk about anymore. I think hardware is going to be something I just don't cover. Because yeah, now I'm under an NDA officially and formally. I know a lot of people speculate that, I'm under an NDA for a lot of previews and game related stuff. And usually it's not a formal, like, legally binding contract. Now I am. So now there's going to be things that I'm not going to touch just because I can't touch. And yeah, don't want to get myself in trouble. So I'm going to spend the next 2 weeks essentially reevaluating, the focus. And again, big part of Xbox Chaturdays is the fun. I want to keep the show fun, and I think I'm going to lean more into that. So we're going to do, obviously, the news. We're going to touch on the big beats, and then I'm going to try to come up with more fun, original segments during the show so we can really lean into that, because that's something I'm really excited about with this new position is I'll be able to focus on the fun component of games more than the noise, which being in games media and being a games journalist, that's just been part of it. Covering the ABK deal, covering the ongoing sagas relating to everything, potentially negative. I don't only focus on negative, but it is a big part of that. So I'm excited to kind of restructure that a little bit. And I guess sorry, yeah, like I said, a little more freeform, a little rough here, but I guess I can talk a little bit. One thing I wanted to talk about too is kind of my, I guess, journey, because I think it's important, because I have a lot of people reach out to me via DMs and say, I'm interested in getting into games journalism. I'm interested in getting into games. When you turn 18 and you need to commit to that for your entire life, you need to be dialed in, ready to go, ready to commit to that forever. And I just don't think that's a realistic ask for the majority of people. There are people who, yeah, figure it out, find a path early on and just are successful in that space. But I think it's perfectly okay. And I think it's perfectly healthy to experiment and try to figure out what you want to do. What brings you joy? What brings you happiness? What's a career path that you can be on that you can be proud of? And so that's my background is very unconventional. So I went to art school and I got a degree in audio production and audio engineering. And when I started college, I was, very passionate about music, and I was looking at it through that lens. I wanted to record artists, I wanted to mix artists, and I wanted to do sound design for film. And so that's what I did out of college. I moved to California and I did a bunch of freelance audio engineering and a bunch of freelance sound design for films. And I enjoyed that. It was exciting work. It was mentally stimulating work. But full transparency, the pay sucked big turds. It was miserable. The pay was so bad and so inconsistent, and I'd have to wait months after wrapping a project to get paid by some of these, directors and production companies. And I couldn't live. I could not live off of doing it. So I had to reevaluate some things, and, I made a transition to the alcohol industry, sales and marketing, baby. So I took a hard right turn, and I worked in, the alcohol industry in California in sales and marketing. I worked for, Southern Glazers Wine and Spirits, which was the biggest spirits distribution company, I think, in the United States. It might still be at this point. And I worked for a lot of big brands like Jim Beam and Patron and Went through that process, climbed the corporate ladder, did well. I enjoyed it. It's a very people-focused job, so I got to spend most of my time talking with accounts and talking to different businesses and trying to understand their business needs. But during all of this, I was doing video games on the side. I was running a little webcomic and website called What's Your Tag, which is a terrible joke based on the Xbox gamer tag. So the origin of it is, instead of going to a bar and asking a chick what her sign was, you'd say, "What's your tag?" As in, what's your gamer tag? So a little cringe for you there, but yeah, we did a web comic for a few years. I also, got access to press events. Went to events like Indiecade. That's where I got my first, I guess, what I would consider big review opportunity with Dragon's Dogma. Dragon's Dogma on Xbox 360 was my first big W, where I was like, oh, I'm doing it. I'm doing this thing, because I reached out to Capcom PR about my little website, and I said, hey, I would love to review Dragon's Dogma. It looks great. I'm a big fan of Capcom's work. Yeah, here's my info. And they responded back. And that was back in the days when there was no digital codes. So you had to provide a mailing address, and they would ship a physical game to you ahead of time. So that was huge. That was such a big deal for me. And I remember, like, when my first little side website got 1 million views, I was so stoked. I was so stoked about that. And I did that for a while. That was the side hustle. And then as I climbed the corporate ladder in the spirits world, and I quickly transitioned to a business development specialist role for another company, helped build up their spirits presence in most of Southern California. I shelved it. I shelved my side hustle. I didn't have the bandwidth to do both. So I focused on, what was making me money. And I enjoyed it. I didn't have a problem with my job, but, after doing that for a couple of years, after, giving up on the I guess the dream, if you will, I was missing it. I was missing covering video games. So I was like, you know what? I don't really care about the bandwidth. I'm going to try to figure it out. I'm going to try to make it work. So I'm going to do my full-time salaried big boy job, and then I'm still going to do video game stuff on the side. So saw a Pokemon writer position posted for a sister site of Windows Central, a website called iMore that was owned by, or is owned by, Future. And so I applied. I was like, I love Pokemon. I can handle some Pokemon writing on the side. I'm a capable, strong writer. Let's do it. So I applied for that. And then, oddly enough, strangely enough, Sir Jez Corden of the old Xbox 2, he sees my resume. He sees that I have a background in audio production. I have a background in video production. And I have a background in design. And so he reaches out and says, hey, saw your resume, saw you were looking to be a Pokemon writer for iMore, but how would you like to do some social content for Windows Central Gaming? The little Windows Central Gaming Twitter channel, which I think at the time, it definitely wasn't at 100K. I think we were at less than 40K subscribers. So I was like, yeah, let's go. That's a great opportunity. So I started doing social content, video graphics, and other social content for Windows Central Gaming. And then sort of, I guess proved my chops more or less there, and then got an opportunity to take on more roles and more responsibilities, and started doing videos with voiceover for Windows Central Gaming. And then eventually that became on-camera videos for Windows Central Gaming. And if you followed me, I did a lot of stuff over there. And we built up Windows Central Gaming, the YouTube channel, from 2,000 subscribers to 25,000. And we built up the Windows Central Gaming Twitter handle from 40,000 to 100,000. So awesome opportunities there. And I've had, and then people started, I guess, paying attention or recognizing my work. And then I was having Kind of Funny reach out to me, and I was having IGN Unlocked reached out to me about being on the show. And it was weird. As someone who, I spent years listening to podcasts like Xbox 2 while I was doing my salaried spirits job, working in the alcohol industry. In between accounts, I would put on Xbox podcast. I would put on gaming podcasts. I put on Podcast Unlocked. I put on Nintendo Voice Chat. I put on Xbox 2. All these podcasts. I would just put them on, and then fast forward just a few years later, and I was being asked to go on these shows, and it was wild. It was amazing, and I'm really grateful for a lot of people and a lot of opportunities. And you know, being a part of bringing games to people, and that moment when a game reveal happens and you see something you weren't expecting, or you see something that speaks to you and who you are, like those are the moments that I love video games and am in the games industry. And so I've always wanted to be a bigger part of that experience and bringing games to people. So after doing Windows Central and working for IGN for a bit, I started reaching out to people on the game development side and saying, all right, like, let me hear your journey. Let me hear your experience. And I started having conversations with a lot of people that I'm really grateful for about their journey and, you know, how they got in and what they're looking for. And so I took those conversations to heart, and I applied to a handful of places, went through the interview process, got to the final round a few times. Didn't get it, obviously. Didn't get other jobs. And so after years and years and years of work and time and investment, I'm game developer side now, which is huge. And I'm really, really excited about that. And that's, you know, ultimately where I want to be. So I'm really excited about that. I'm really grateful about my time in games media and games journalism. But I'm also incredibly excited to move past that. I think that was a great point in my life. I'm very proud of the work that I've done, but I'm looking forward to, doing some more behind the scenes work and being a part of shaping games. And I think that is, like I said, it was a very emotionally dynamic year, because, my friends who know me and have followed me have known that I've been doing this on the side for a decade, and then made the transition to have it be the full-time gig in 2020, and have been doing freelance at Windows Central and IGN, and have had opportunities at Escapist and a lot of other websites. So I'm very grateful for all of those opportunities. But I'm very grateful to also not be doing freelance anymore. If you have any questions about that process or what freelance looks like, the realities to think about if you were considering it, I'm happy to have that conversation. Feel free to drop those questions in the chat if you do. There's a lot of pros and cons to freelance that I feel are worth highlighting. And I'm a big, proponent of, my generation was unfortunately told that you can do anything you put your mind to. And that is, for better or worse, something that I've bought into, and I've believed and tried to make happen in spite of a lot of hurdles and a lot of realities that make it hard or next to impossible. So I guess I want to champion people who are chasing it, and then I also want to do my best to give realistic, helpful advice where I can. Because it's not as simple as, if you think you can do it, you can do it. And that's, that's hard. That's hard to hear. That was hard for me to come to terms with, but it's definitely doable. And I just, I want to do my best. So if you have questions you don't want to share with the chat, feel free to DM me on X, Twitter, whatever it's called these days. Feel free to DM me there. And I'd be happy to answer, because like I said, I've had a lot of people reach out about that process, and I wanted to be open about that process because it's something I don't feel like a lot of people talk about. So let me get to a couple super chats here. We got Nick W. Oh, he's got the gold burger. Oh, hot. It's been that long. He's been a member for 6 months, has earned the gold burger badge. First one I think I've seen. So let's go. Miles, what horror games are you looking forward to in the next year? My God. It's a good time to be a horror fan. We got Alan Wake 2. We have Texas Chainsaw Massacre. We have Killer Clowns from Outer Space. We have the Alone in the Dark reboot. There's almost certainly going to be another Resident Evil coming. There's a lot. There's a lot to look forward to for me. I'm very excited. There's no shortage of great horror, and that's a short list. I have a massive list somewhere of a lot of deeper cuts, but those are the big ones. Trevor Schaefer says, congrats on the job. Thank you. I'm very, very stoked for the job. All right, so I guess, again, bit of a weirder episode, but I'm going to start wrapping things up here. Like I said, a bit of a weirder episode. Mostly wanted to do this because it had been a few weeks, and I wanted to give everyone an update as to what's going on and reassure people that the show will continue. Because I've had a lot of people assume that with the new job, the show is dead. And I think that's a safe assumption. It happens a lot. But the show will live on. Very excited about that. And I really appreciate everyone who's supported me and shared kind words and supported the channel and all that stuff. Because it's been a month and a half. Let me tell you. And there's still more to do. Like I said, my dad's memorial is this weekend. We're also moving. During this process, we got told that the owner of our current rental is moving back in, so we had to figure all that out. So yeah, we're gonna be moving in the next 2 weeks. Got PAX and got my dad's memorial. So there will not be a show the next 2 weeks, but in September, hopefully we can get back to a regular swing and, get back to talking about video games. We'll have Starfield out. We'll have a bunch of big games around the corner. But yeah, it's we're getting into the season. And with that being said, that is going to do it for this week's episode of Xbox Chaturdays. Appreciate all of you. Thanks so much for watching, and I will catch you in a couple weeks. Take care, everybody.